In this example, part one is basically what we did in the last example. It is using our counting principles. In this case, we want to flip a penny, a nickel, and a dime. So we have three operations. The first operation, flipping the penny, has two possible outcomes. The second operation, flipping the nickel, also has two outcomes. And flipping the dime has two outcomes. So that means we have a total of 8 possible outcomes in our sample space. That's an easy way to figure out the number of outcomes you have in your sample spaces by just using those counting principles that we've talked about. To identify the sample space, you can do this a couple ways. One way is with a tree diagram. Since there are 2 possible outcomes for the first trial, or in this case for flipping the penny, we can start with 2 branches. And flipping the penny is going to give us either heads or tails. Then when we flip the nickel, if we get heads on the penny, we have 2 possible outcomes for the nickel, and same thing if we get tails on the penny. So we'll have 2 branches off of each of these, and of course these are also going to be heads or tails. And then when we flip the dime, that third coin, we're going to have 2 possible outcomes off of each of these, which are all going to be heads, tails. And these are our 8 possible outcomes. So this is one way to write a sample spaces with the tree diagram, and you can see if you go through the sample space, this is the first outcome, which is H, H, H. The second outcome is H, H, T, and you can see this just by following the branches. The third outcome is H, T, H. The fourth outcome is H, T, T. The fifth outcome is T, H, H. T, H, T. T, T, H, and T, T, T. So these are our possible outcomes, and you can write them either way, either in the form of the tree diagram or just list it out as I have there. I then asked some probabilities in this case. Let's start with the probability of A. The probability of A in this case, A is defined as the event that I have 3 tails. So that happens one way. In this case, assuming we have a fair coin, these outcomes are all equally likely. So that means there is 1 possible outcome that satisfies this out of the 8 possible outcomes in the sample space. So that probability is 1 out of 8. Obviously, you need to understand the sample space before you can figure out this probability. Number 4, the probability of B. B is the event of getting exactly 2 tails. So you get 2 tails here, you get 2 tails here, and you get 2 tails here. There are 3 ways to do that out of the 8 possible outcomes. So the probability of B is 3 over 8. The probability of C, the probability that we get exactly 1 tail, that happens here, it happens here, and it happens here. It happens in those 3 cases. So you get 3 out of 8. And then the probability of D is the probability that you get no tails, which only happens one way, which is all 3 heads out of the 8 possible outcomes. So that's just kind of a basic example of a sample space and then how we use that sample space to calculate basic probability.